Are you just a fraudster?
That's actually the historical search is very important because you realize that Kitambo, when people used to get land, they used to be issued letters of allotment. So that, but they went to the registrar at the lands registry, and they were able to find their way, through corruption and whatever, and they got a title.
There could be multiple title deeds on one land.
On one land.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Law Podcast. My name is
Kaya in this podcast to discuss matters law.
I'm talking about matters employment law, contracts, general dispute resolution, family matters. We got you covered.
Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. So on today's episode, we'll be talking about the role of a lawyer in land transactions.
Yeah, and land is a big deal in Kenya. It's a huge deal. People are either investing or you're either getting your first plot, or maybe you're trying to inherit land from someone who died. So the question that most people usually ask is, do I really need a lawyer? Short answer.
You actually do.
Yeah. Because a lawyer will save you a lot of money. They'll save you millions. And by the way, when you're talking about land, it's not just land nowadays because people buy sectional units. Sectional units is whereby, for example, there's a building and then you take a unit, like someone just buys a unit out of the building.
Oh no, that's like right before it's built or after?
No, that's after it's built. The other one is off plan. Off plan is whereby you buy a plan. Let's say there are developers somewhere and then there's a plan. They call people and then you buy it before it's built. So
really, like
cheaper that.
So now you are basically just funding the project.
Yeah. And then, so when you're talking about land, we're talking about all these things because either way, when you're buying a sectional unit or an off-plan whatever, you have to ensure that all these steps that we're going to talk about are followed.
Yeah.
So we're saying it's important for you to involve a lawyer when you're doing these transactions because a lawyer will come in at the point
at the beginning.
There's the part where there's the sale agreement because you have to draft an agreement between the parties and where
both parties have to understand what the sale agreement is about.
Yeah, and then there's also the point where when money exchanges hands, it's usually important to use lawyers because we'll talk more about that because there's such a thing as an escrow account and where both the party will send money into a joint account and then the lawyer will transfer to the party to receive the money. Yeah. So, and also, of course, the buyer. Yeah, just in case there are other disputes, the lawyer can come in to help. And there are things like professional undertakings that we also talk about. I'm just giving a summary so that when we start, we can
play the flow through the conversation.
Yeah. So now we'll start with due diligence.
Yeah. So I really just want to have like an overview of what due diligence looks at generally. It should be on like just finding out the basics of the property. Like maybe, am I buying it? Are you just a fraudster? Like, do you really own the property? 1, what is the actual size of that property? 2, 3, if there are any encumbrances. For example, if the purchaser took a loan on it, so like maybe there's a charge, or maybe the property is a subject of a dispute in court. So if there's a caveat, so that's what like due diligence majorly does. It's just to ensure that you're not being conned and the whole process is seamless in the sense that I cannot pay you money and then I realize that you're not the owner of the property. Yeah. So we'll begin by doing a search first. So you could do a historical search or the one at the registry, but mostly the historical search is for mostly like allotment. When the government allots plots of land to like people. Yeah,
that's actually the historical search is very important because you realize that Kitambo, when people used to get land, they used to be issued letters of allotment. So that maybe there will be, sometimes you'd find that the letters of allotment issued to more than one person over a similar piece of land.
Yeah.
So now, of course, okay, and this is just a bit TMI, but when you get a letter of allotment, iyo kitambo, you would get it as a letter of offer, and then once you accept and send money, then you will be the owner of that property. And then if you want to get a title later, you'd have to present these things and be able to get the title. So now you can find that sometimes the person who was allotted first maybe didn't go through all these processes as was required, but they went to the registrar at the lands registry, and they were able to find their way, through corruption and whatever, and they got a title. So if you don't do a historical search and you just rely that just because someone has a title deed, they're the legitimate owner of the land, you could easily buy land that does not belong to the grantor or the seller.
There could be multiple title deeds
on one land. Yeah. And then also there's something that you said that you need to know the size of the land. It's very important for you to go to the physical place. And that's why you also need a lawyer, because a lawyer will be able to liaise with the survey department, and they'll be able to go and actually physically assess where the land is, check the maps. Is this actually the right land number? Is this land the land that we're supposed to buy?
Yeah.
And what is the boundary,
Yeah, and put like beacons.
Yeah, put beacons.
I can't wink, but like that's a very local thing to say, but like put beacon, because maybe if it's a subject of a subdivision.
Yeah.
So when the surveyor comes in, they would come to identify like this is the exact piece of land. So this is the boundary, like up and kwenye nafika from east, west, north, and south.
Yeah, and it's also very important to establish whether they're usually called encumbrances, in the sense that was this property charged? It charged in the sense that, is it security for someone who asked for a loan from the
bank? Yeah.
And so could you be buying property that was already charged and you don't even know about it? So you just decide to go and sign a sale agreement and you don't know that this thing is security for a loan with a certain bank.
Because now if they default, it generally means that the bank has rights on it.
The bank has rights on it. They'll be able to sell the land and you won't be able to do anything about it so long as they follow the right procedure. And of course there's a procedure for that. But the other thing you mentioned is also disputes. Is there a court case on this land? No? Is this there are two titles on it? Maybe they're actually the issue of allotted addition, and the two people think it's their land. So they have to go to court and say, I got a letter of allotment, this one also got it. So who is the rightful owner? But now to buy something that is subject to
yes. So when it's a dispute, it means that there must be a caveat. So that now it cannot be sold. But how do you know if there's a caveat on a property?
You also have to do that. Now, when you do a purchase, you'll be able to know whether the caveat, that thing that you get, you'll be able to see there's a caveat, maybe a portion that was placed on it, so that it means that this land cannot be transferred
to anybody. Yeah. But so now that is the type of statutory.
But kitambo we used to go to the land registry. Sure. Yeah.
There's no caveat or any encumbrance on that property.
Yeah. And I think it's also important because another thing that is very important for in matters due diligence is whether this land is actually government land. Some people have titles over government land.
Yeah.
Government will always come for its land. At some point, So you might stay. There's a case I think in Taveta or somewhere in the coast whereby this community, they were complaining because the government had come and they want to put a project on the land, and they're saying that this land has always been government land. And these people are saying, we bought this land, it's legitimately our land.
Even the other matter at Athibiva, it's almost the same thing.
Yeah. So the government will always come for its land. And then it's also very important to do due diligence, because sometimes you might want to acquire land to do something. For example, you want to put up a commercial thing, or you want to put up a residential thing in an area where they normally don't allow commercial stuff or residential stuff. So you need your lawyer to be able to guide you that you will need a change of
user and how to go about it.
How to go about it.
Yeah, we'll do a video on change of user.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a bit long and lengthy.
Because now you can't, if it's a residential area and you want to put a commercial thing, you can't. Unless you have a change of.
Why would you have a morgue? Like there's another matter that a party bought property, but it was within an estate. So like let's say around here. So like there's a subdivision that was bought like in the middle of the estate, and then they had to put up a morgue, and it's a residential area. You see, and they actually, now you have to, because now that becomes a point of dispute. So you see, if you didn't have a lawyer, you would not know.
Yeah.
Right? You needed to get a go ahead from the county, like on the zoning and whatnot, so that you can have an understanding of what you can do within certain areas. Yeah.
And you'd also understand that sometimes you might not get the change of user because now you would have to protect people from, for example, whatever happened in Embakasi, where people, the gas, exploded and people were around there. So it's not automatic that you'll always get the change of user, but just involve a lawyer because they'll be able to guide you through all these years of due diligence so that you don't get, you don't buy government land or you don't buy some land where there's government interest on it because all these plans that you see the government implementing right now, they were not just conceived 5 years ago or 10 years ago. They were conceived kitambo, like during the colonial times. These plans are already there. So right now, when they make a 5-year plan or 20-year plan, they are basing it on a major plan that they already did. So there are people who usually know at a certain point we will have a railway like at this point. So you can't buy land around that place because now if the government wants to put SGR, of course they will
have to
just go. Yeah, and you might say, of course, they're supposed to compensate us. They will sometimes
they won't. If mostly if the property was theirs and you bought it like illegally. Because also it's important to note that on other issues, if I don't have good title, like if the title is not mine, I cannot transfer it to you.
You can't.
Say, for example, when you're going to do a search, now the due diligence now to just find out if I own the property or something, when you do a historical, you'll see like who had it before. So what if I was sold, like there's a matter somewhere in Nairobi, it's still in court, so you cannot discuss it. But a second party, so like there was the initial owner. The initial owner is a government parastatal. So they did not sell this property. But now these guys found a way and got titles. They subdivided the land and they sold it to so many people. And people have been living there for ages. So now when the parastatal now wants to build something there, it has to come and evict them. Because now it's their property.
Their property.
But now they come and say, oh no, we were given titles and all. And like, no, you cannot claim that you own government property if it was not transferred to you legally. Yes.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And the fact that someone has a title doesn't necessarily
mean that it's actually
it's that they are the owner of the
actual owner.
I mean, in this country, you can literally get any document that you want, so long as you go to some places where people go to.
Yeah.
So due diligence is very, very important, and you need your lawyer for that.
And that's actually the center of land transactions because if you miss a step in due diligence, it means you will have to litigate on that property.
Exactly.
And then now that's more cost.
Exactly. That's why I was saying a lawyer will save you billions.
Yeah.
Millions, billions, and whatever, and time. And actually, you'll have peace of mind. Because now you can imagine you get a fraudulent title. Now there's a
whole, now you have to pay for litigation.
You have to pay for
and you paid for conveyancing.
And yet you just, and the money that you would have paid to actually get a lawyer to do this transaction for you would be way less than the litigation costs.
Yeah.
Because litigation in court is very expensive. You have to pay for court attendance. You'll have to pay for filing of the documents, everything. You'll have to pay for a lot
for the legal knowledge that you'll be disseminating.
Yeah, instruction fees.
Yes.
Yeah, so due diligence. The second thing that you need a lawyer for is the part. Now you know that the land belongs to this person. Yeah, you have established there's the vendor, that's the seller. This is their land. Maybe if it's a company, but if it's a company, you have to establish, is this even a company registered in Kenya?
Yes.
Is this actually a company, or it's just a sham, or it's just something that they're just presenting themselves as a company. So you also have to do a company search to ensure that it's actually
a company in Kenya, and also that if maybe, for example, they needed to have a special resolution so that now you don't get one director is trying to sell property to you. And then now this whole company will come and say, oh no, that property still belongs to the company. Yeah.
I mean, you just there are a lot of blind spots that we can actually miss. Yeah. Yeah. So the second thing, due diligence. Now you're at a place where you've established, okay, yeah, you want to buy the land, and you don't just buy land. There's a law that says that for land agreements, they have to be written.
Yes, they must be. Like the agreements must be written.
Yeah, must be written.
And as much as they want to call these others that, oh, gentleman agreement, if I said I will do, how would you prove in court that you said? What if we agreed 10 acres and I give you 2 acres?
Yeah.
What's the proof? Because also the land agreement
said.
Yeah. Now who listens to who said that? Who knows the truth? And
you'll actually find in most cases, even Zakitambo, you'll find that they used even to handwrite. They handwrite, this is an agreement between person X and person Y. This is the seller, this is the purchaser, this is the amount,
this is the size of the land,
this is the deposit, this is the installments and whatever.
Yeah. And even if it's a signature, because now there's that point of like,
there has to be a signature, yes, and it has to be witnessed. Where for land, it has to be witnessed. For normal contracts, it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But for land, you have to get a witness. Like there's the lawyer party. Yeah.
To just show that, okay, it's not now that we discussed somewhere in private and then now we are coming to litigate or something and we do not have any other third party saying, because now it would be my word against your own.
Yeah. So your lawyer would be able to ensure that you have whatever you want in the agreement, yeah? So that you know, this is the point where I'm going to get my vacant possession of the property. This is how much I'm going to pay. This is as deposit, because there's also a threshold that someone can't add for in not as deposit. This is the deposit. This is the installments, etc., etc.
And this is the length of time I'm going to use to like pay for this whole property.
Yeah.
If this property, for example, now when somebody wants to sell a property, you must include.
Yeah.
So that I had actually charged this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe if you're having a if you're the vendor pick you button your KCB account to clear the from the tax. Not me.
Yeah, that's a very good point actually. Yeah, and then I think so. We're done with the sale agreement. It's a lot like that. Because there's also the part of where are there fixtures on this land, and are the fixtures included in the purchase price? Like, what do you do about the fixtures? The fixtures is just like, for example, maybe there are trees on the land, and people like to sell actually the trees. Yeah, or maybe there's a building on the land. What do we do about it? So these are things that, of course, parties can agree, but you need the advice of a lawyer.
Even toilets, they are put there in the agreement.
Exactly. Yeah. So now you have the agreement, but sometimes people don't agree. Yeah, especially because they're saying, for example, now it's the purchaser who usually does the registration of the land, yeah, and then now in the transfer, all the transfer process in the land registry, right? So now you're saying I don't have enough money to pay at this point, and the vendor, no, the seller is saying I can't give you the documents, when I can't give you the original documents to main transfer, you've not given me all that I need. So now lawyers can come in,
look together. Then now they create an account, the one you spoke about, the escrow, where now the money is deposited, like in a joint account where none of us can withdraw without the other's permission.
Exactly.
So now it ensures that the money of the purchaser is protected, and the maybe obligations of the vendor are also met.
Exactly.
Because now if we have the money in the escrow and you're supposed to give me original documents, then it means that your lawyers are supposed to give you the money, so that as you give us the point where now we do exchange. And now you take your land, I take the money.
The money. And it's actually very important to mention that this escrow is between the two lawyers. Now the seller has a lawyer, the buyer has a lawyer. It's very advisable for you to have different lawyers. Yeah, both of you shouldn't have the same lawyer. So that's now the lawyer of the buyer and the lawyer of the seller will come together and do that account, like they create the account, and then the purchaser will deposit the money there, and so that hiyo pesa haitatoka unless both of us have
agreed. And now we have gotten, now the documents have come, but then we've not spoken about the undertaking part, like between now the seller's lawyer and the vendor's lawyer. That now I say, maybe I'm representing maybe the sellers. It means you and I write an agreement to say that I commit to give you the money, and you commit to give me the documents. Now they like title deeds and whatnot. Yes.
Yeah, because actually there's that thing, it's called a professional undertaking. And a lawyer would be hesitant to do that, but when they do it, the other lawyer would trust them because it's binding on personally. Like it binds you personally as a lawyer. For example, if I say that my client will give you this money after you have given us the documents, because at this point you're basically at an impasse. No one wants to give, like if they don't want to give you money, and then I don't get the documents. I don't want to give you the documents, and then I don't get the money. So now what do? You get lawyers to do a professional undertaking so that one can move before the other. Yeah. So that's why a lawyer. Yeah, that's very insightful actually. And of course, consult your lawyer on that and more, and they'll be able to tell you. Now the other part, after now you have already done the sale agreement, money has exchanged hands. Now it's time to actually transfer the property to me. For example, you're the seller, I'm the buyer, right? So now it's time for you to transfer the property to me. You need a lawyer again to be able to do those documents for you so that they're taken to the
registry.
Yeah, to the registry. Yes. Yeah, so that because now we know that for us to transfer that land, we will need all those documents. And now this is where also the need comes in, whereby there's also inheritance, because you don't just inherit land and then you go and sit on the land. It's your land, you also have a title of it. Yeah, it needs to change names from the person who has died to
now they like to
beneficiaries.
But also, it's important to note that there must be stamp duty to be paid.
Yeah,
Like, you must pay the government. Yeah, you must pay them, because ideally, the constitution says that all land belongs to the government, and we all get in trust.
Can you imagine?
So you have to pay them, because it's ideally theirs. Okay, we own, but we hold it in trust for the government. Of course, we'll have another episode on trust and whatnot. But now it's important to note that they are, because of the, I don't want to say how expensive property can be in urban areas, but the stamp duty is different, like in the village and in the city. So now we call it urban areas and not so urban.
Yeah.
I just say rural. It's just rural.
Oh yeah, rural. Yeah. So in the urban centers, actually 4%, and then outside of Nairobi, it's like 3%. Yeah. So your lawyer will be able to, and actually it's the purchaser who pays the stamp duty. At least that's something some knowledge I've given you now, but your lawyer won't have to tell you. But it's you. You're the one who's right to pay. So you will pay the stamp duty. Yeah. So after you pay the stamp duty, of course, the land process, that's something that, again, you just need a lawyer for it. Yeah. And then now, after the registration has been done, you can get your title, and you will have saved yourself a lot of cost of money, and you would be very peaceful while at it, because you're contracting your risk. You're giving away your risk through money anyway. Yeah. And that's it.
Thank you so much for getting here.
Yeah. I'm sure it was very short, and I'm sure it was very
insightful, because land matters are the ones that are causing backlog in court.
I'm telling you, the ELC,
and they take so long.
My God, it take very, very long. Yeah. Very long. Yeah. So if you go to the end of this video, thank you for watching. I hope you've learned. Share it with a friend, because you will save them a lot of money. Yeah. So thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye. Bye.